as what we know right now, if this were to be a RICO case, are those always a felony?
Well, yeah, it's a serious felony, too, under Georgia law. So Georgia's unique, and you have your misdemeanors, felonies, and serious felonies. So in RICO, in any state or in the federal system, is very serious. But like Del said, what makes it serious is the number of people that are likely going to be charged in the case. I mean, one of the unique things about Jack Smith's indictment is you have those unindicted co-conspirators. And there's a strategic reason why I think he did that. He wanted to get that federal election case to trial as quickly as possible. He's asking for a January trial date, certainly well before the general election, because we all know that Trump's best defense in these cases is delay. If he's elected president, likely most of his criminal problems go away. At least that's what the Department of Justice has said. So, if Fani Willis does indeed charge a lot of individuals and a lot of predicate acts, that's going to delay things. We've seen this, for instance, in the rapper case. I mean, it's been pushed out months and years, and I expect the same thing to happen. This is the type of case that probably will not get to trial before November 2024 if we're dealing with a lot of defendants.
I keep hearing that Fani Willis, she kind of prefers to use these RICO charges. Why would that be from a legal strategic perspective?
Because it expands your reach, chance, when you're talking about individuals, for instance, we're talking about other counties there in Georgia. This isn't a federal prosecutor. There's allegations in Cobb County, for instance, that's outside of Fulton County. But you can squeeze these other facts into a RICO indictment as either factual support for the criminal enterprise or as predicate acts. So it expands your reach in terms of the individuals that you're going after. It expands the reach in terms of the charges. And of course, it carries the longest potential sentence.
Neama, sorry to interrupt. What is a predicate act?
Yeah, so a predicate act is an act that satisfies the racketeering component of a RICO charge. So you need your criminal enterprise, so that's 2 or more people, but you also need predicate acts. And of course, we know extortion and drug dealing and murder and assault, those are of course things that the mob does. But Georgia's unique in that, for instance, forgery is a predicate act. That's not something in the federal system unless it's forgery of a passport, for instance. And, witness intimidation and tampering, those are also predicate acts. So you can get these charges in because you need a pattern. You need 2 or more of these charges in under Georgia law where you might not be able to under federal law or other state laws.
Mm-hmm. So could you explain to me, and I don't know exactly how read in you are on this case, but a relatively new fact to me or allegation to me is that perhaps someone related to the Trump team was part of an effort to invade a voting system somewhere in Georgia. Can you explain that a little bit and what would be illegal about that?
Yeah, well, we're certainly seeing that. And, it wasn't listed in the charges that were posted on the court's website, but that doesn't mean it can't be part of the RICO count. So, of course, unlawfully accessing, unlawfully tampering with votes, I mean, that's a crime in any state or at the federal level. So if members of the Trump criminal enterprise, and I use that term loosely, were involved in trying to unlawfully access votes and voting machines, that's a crime, and that's something that can be used as one of those racketeering acts for the purposes of RICO.
So we have discussed, you and I included, the relative strength of certain cases. You have Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA, bringing, these financial crimes and saying every time that, they acknowledged this as one thing, but it was another, that's a crime. And then the Trump team said, we never submitted that paperwork to the government. How would that be illegal? And people said, I don't know. They're trying to get a little creative. That seems a little flimsy. And then some of the other cases we've seen more recently from the feds, people have said, seems a bit stronger. We have this evidence apparently that Trump was telling his lawyers, well, get rid of that evidence, dump it, get rid of it. When you look at Fani Willis's case, at least what we know about it so far or have speculated about it, how strong does it seem?
I think it's a very strong case for a number of reasons. One, the jury pool is going to be very liberal, very democratic. And I mean, the practical reality is it matters as a prosecutor where you try cases. There's a big difference for me when I was prosecuting cases, in certain parts of San Diego where my jury pool consisted of law enforcement and retired military, and then me trying cases in parts of LA, including South Central, where they didn't like law enforcement. So, you have 2 jurisdictions, or really 3 if you look at Manhattan as well, but the more serious cases in DC and here in Atlanta, where I think prosecutors are going to have a very good jury pool. I think on the merits, the classified documents case is the strongest. I think it's going to be the most difficult to defend. Trump admitted to knowing the documents were classified, and he wanted to withhold them anyway. But I think when you have a more mixed jury pool, or even a potentially jury pool there in South Florida, it's going to be harder for prosecutors to get a conviction in what's going to be the most politically charged trials in American history.
That's very interesting. When I asked about the strength of the case, I was just thinking the facts. I didn't think about who potentially is going to hear the case and vote on it. Very good point, Neama.